that's really what you want to do. And you want to stand out as a brand. You want to be bold. The text is very bold. It's pink. How many pink colored books? I could have wrote another blue book, but I'm really teaching on a meta level, many different layers of what really branding is all about.
This is Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgensen.
Welcome out to Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio. I am your host, Tyler Jorgensen, and today we have the honor, pleasure, and privilege of talking with an entrepreneur that brings a wildly new perspective to a lot of things about business. We're going to talk about his book, which has a title that you're going to love. We're going to talk about what he does with Category of One branding and how he approaches branding from a very unique way. Welcome out to the show, Re Perez.
Tyler, how's it going?
Man, if I was any better, I'd be twins. So I'm excited to chat with you about business and entrepreneurship because we've gotten to know each other just a little bit, but that means I know nothing about you, right? And so I want to know, when was that moment you first realized you were an entrepreneur?
Well, I think there's two inflection points. One, it was a little bit of subconscious entrepreneur. It was like I was 14 years old and I didn't grow up with like a silver spoon in my mouth or anything like that. And my mom decided to put us in a private school with a lot of, rich kids. And I wanted to wear nice clothes, but we couldn't afford them. So I was like, I need to figure out how to make money. And so at 14 years old, I was just like, okay, I need to figure out how to make money. And but that was just basically to get a job.
Yeah.
But fast forward to say like my mid 30s. I was working at one of the top global brand consulting firms in New York, still working for someone else, but I was always feeling like I can do better than what my boss or the people who are in senior management. I have more heart. I have more dedication. Maybe they're a little bit smarter than me in some ways. Maybe they have like the fancy MBA or whatever, but like I'm just as good as them. And then I also am not good at playing the politics game, corporate politics, that is. I wasn't a good ass kisser, and sorry, I wasn't someone who was good at like kissing up to senior management.
Right. And
what that meant was through a series of events, I ended up leaving that company. In truth, I was like corporate downsized because there were some politics going on. And that just kind of forced me, if not catapulted me, to really decide and take a bet on myself and believe in myself that I actually can do this better, faster, and more in a more fulfilling way by doing it on my own. And that's exactly what I did. I left.
So I think that's really cool because you had almost this dormant, inherent thought process that you realized. The first example you shared, you knew, hey, if I need money, I can solve that problem. You didn't look externally for the solution.
That's right.
And then, you ended up pursuing a kind of traditional career path, but always saw a better opportunity, a way to do something in a better, more heartfelt and strategic way, or more dedication. And I think that's the heart of entrepreneurship, is seeing one thing and that's recognizing it can be different and I can be the one to make the change. So you got kind of catapulted into it. What was your first, real step into business and entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So I will say there's like one piece in there that I was getting consulted to, or I was getting hired as a consultant to work for Motorola at the time. And this is about 14, 15 years ago. And I didn't really want to, I was looking to leave New York, and they were like, well, what about Dubai? And then I ended up taking this position in Dubai. If we have time to get into it, we can, but that was about a 6-month stint. And then I went on like a spiritual retreat, to be honest, to try to figure out like, what is this next path? And so I always loved what I did profession-wise. I always loved branding. I loved the art and science of it. I just lost the passion and the desire to work with corporate Fortune 500 companies. For some people, that's their goal. but for me, I was just like, I wanted to work with brands that were making some sort of direct impact in people's lives. I wanted to work with brands that were making a difference. And that's when I came up with the concept, Branding for the People, which was the name of my agency, which I ran for 13 years. And the idea was, okay, let me bring Fortune 500 level branding to entrepreneurs and small businesses. And the moment I had the name, the URL was available for $4.99, and it generated millions of dollars for me because I had a vision. And the other thing too, I will say, I think this is important, is that when you have a vision and you make a decision that your business shall be, you take big risks. And I joined a 5-figure mastermind, which most people probably wait till year 1, year 2, year 3 before they join their mastermind. But I had that sort of drive, and I made that decision. I said, you know what? I'm going to crush it. If these people can, because I started getting exposed to entrepreneurs. I was like, if these people can do it, I can absolutely do it with my experience. And that's exactly what I did. I joined a high-level mastermind. In 3 months out of the gate, I said, I'm going to put on an event. And I had no list. I knew a lot of people in New York. And I had this vision, and I basically put 56 people in the room for a one-day event in New York. I enrolled all these people. Like, I enrolled an event planner. I enrolled a Peruvian catering company who was starting her business. I said, you could be a sponsor. I want you to create an experience with the food. The event planner she was trying to start her business. I said, why don't you use me as a guinea pig? And I basically enrolled all these startup entrepreneurs and saying, I'm going to put on something amazing. It's going to be an event about branding. And this is before a lot of people were talking about branding, mind you. Mm-hmm. And I charged $179 for people to spend a day with me, which, by the way, that's a lot of money, apparently, from all the coaches saying, like, why are you charging $179? Because people don't know who you are. And you want to get them to spend a day with you. And I was like, are you kidding me? That my hourly bill rate is more than that. And they're getting to spend a whole day with me, and I'm feeding them, and it's going to be in this cool loft. So I paint the picture to say, like, that's exactly what I did. I put on an event, I taught and I educated, and I inspired people about what's possible with the level of branding that I come from. And that's when I did my first 6 figures. And then I was like, okay, let's do this again. So then I started to replace my income, because I had a 6-figure salary. I started to replace my income working in corporate. And then I learned the game of business through consulting, coaching, events, and also just that speed to market of like working directly with other entrepreneurs who have a business. That event planner became one of my first clients. Handful of people at that event became my clients. And so that was just my entree into entrepreneurship. And I started to demonstrate what I was teaching, which is when you build a brand, you attract the right people. And then you can use marketing to acquire more of those people through like cold traffic and stuff like that. So let me pause there and see.
Yeah, that's great. I love the early hubris, right? The little bit of like, I don't know how this is going, but I know I'm going to do it. And sometimes that's where the magic happens. Sometimes when we stop and we ask too much advice, we get, other people's ideas begin to overwhelm and cloud our own thought process. So I love the early hubris, like the little slight delusion that you're like, I'm charging I'm sorry, you don't think that's right. That's what I'm going to do. And I see for people watching, right? Many of you are going to be listening to this, but if you're watching, Re has a ton of books on his bookshelf behind him. Some of them I can tell are his, but some are other people that have been guests on the show. And that's really cool. What are some books that you read that really impacted your business trajectory?
Oh, my business trajectory. Well, what's interesting is a lot of the books that I've read that have impacted my business aren't actually business books.
Fair.
They were more put them in the category of like personal growth and development,
Mm-hmm.
spirituality, maybe some mindset kind of stuff. And there's one in particular I think that I'll bring up, and because that was a pivot point when I found myself in Dubai trying to figure out like, what am I doing with my life? I stumbled across this book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that's made a huge difference for me, because if you think about it, I mean, I don't know if you've read the book, but like,
Yeah, years ago.
yeah. So at that time, it was a huge impact for me because it helped me to live in the present moment. And I think one of the best things about business, while we're trained to kind of think in quarters or years, or like, what are you trying to do? I think there's an element where you can look at that, but I think there's an element where you miss the opportunity when you're just not present with what's right in front of you.
Yeah, it's that idea of head in the clouds, but feet in the dirt, right? You have to stay grounded in the present, but have a vision for the future. You can't just have one or two, or one or the other. Now, you've read other people's books. You've got a host behind you, but I need to hear about your book. So tell us why you decided to write a book, and what it's called, and give us the nuggets, and that way everyone will go buy it.
Well, good. So let's just put this here. So the title is Your Brand Should Be Gay, Even If You're Not. Now, the subtitle, it's The Art and Science of Creating an Authentic Brand. So let me just deconstruct this for you. I love doing this whenever I'm being interviewed, is because if you're new to me, if you heard the title, one of several things probably happened. You probably chuckled, or you probably were like, that's clever, that's funny, that makes so much sense. Or you were confused and you were like, I don't know, why should it be gay? So it provokes the question, why should my brand be gay? And then the other thing that it does, it typically evokes an emotion. So it piques curiosity, it evokes an emotion, and it can be polarizing. So the other thing that I'm teaching through the power of this book, this title, is I could have meant your brand should be happy. But it's interesting when you ask people what they think of that title, they think, oh, because gay men are this and this and that. And I never said that. And so there's a power of just words and language and how it creates a whole world. Now, if I said how to create an authentic brand, I don't think I get the same kind of visceral reactions. And so that's really what you want to do. And you want to stand out as a brand. You want to be bold. The text is very bold. It's pink. How many pink colored books? I could have wrote another blue book, but I'm really teaching on a meta level many different layers of what really branding is all about. Now, the other piece that's really personal for me is because I do identify as a gay man, but like I came out in the 90s, and it wasn't safe to come out in the 90s in New York City. It wasn't safe to come out. And maybe in some places it's still not safe, if you will. But the real power for me is my journey is when you're authentically who you are and unapologetically authentic in who you are and who you're not, then you almost walk around with a sense of confidence and knowing, and not necessarily caring what people think about you. And that's really it. That's kind of what I'm really trying to teach people, whether you're building a personal brand or a business brand, is just double down, if not triple down, into the most authentic version of your brand.
There's so many layers to that, and I want to hit a couple of them. So I think there's obviously you used your personal experience and your identity and your life story to help tell this story about branding and make it very, very human, which is really cool, and which is part of your authenticity. So many people I know struggle on both fronts. One, to be personally authentic. Like this is something I've battled with as figuring out my own individual identity as I get older, but then also as a business, so many people are scared to plant their flag because they're worried they're going to push some people away, even though logically they know they're going to pull others towards them. there's this scarcity, this fear that they'll push people away and lose money. And especially in the early stages of business, it terrifies them. Right. So how did you overcome the fear of like pushing, losing clients? Or were you just always bold and unapologetic and willing to be polarizing?
At the time when I started my own company, when I went out on my own, this is about, I don't know, at this point, 15 years ago. I did come with a level of confidence, albeit maybe attitude. Like there was a little bit of an error about me because I had such great experience working with some of the top thinkers in branding, and then I'm coming down to working with entrepreneurs. Like the price points were different, the deals were different, and I just had this confidence about like, yeah, this is really good and this is going to help you. So I did at that time come from a place of, I have something amazing. I want to help you. If you don't want it, that's okay. It's your loss. Now, fast forward throughout the years, because that works, that can work, and maybe it can work ongoingly. But then there's new levels of experience that I had to experience. And that was like, okay, well, there's some people who don't get branding, or there's some people who may not be aligned with the fact that I do recall having one time a really good connection with a guy in New York. And we met up for lunch, and I was talking to him about this, and something came up about me being gay, and I never heard back from him. Like we were vibing up until that point. And that's when I noticed, I was like, oh, I'm not for everyone. And nor should I be for everyone. And so I had to have those experiences to say, okay, well, you're going to get a reaction. And this is also branding, right?
Yeah.
The way that I define brand, it's not your logo. It's not your tagline. It's a perception, and it's a desired perception that you want to own in the marketplace. And if brand is a desired perception, then branding is the process of creating, shaping, and influencing that perception. And the other thing too is that you don't own your brand. It resides in other people's minds. So then I started to use my own language and syntax and philosophy around branding. And I was like, okay, well, people are going to have a perception of me. The only thing I can do is try to control it or influence, but people may not like it.
Yeah.
So my point is, through trial and error, through a little bit of experience of knowing, who you were meant to work with. And when you're just starting out, when I was just starting out, you almost want to be like, okay, yeah, let's work together. So many people want to hire you. And then I've learned a couple things. Well, not everyone with a credit card was meant to be your client. Not everyone was meant to be your client. Just because people can afford you, or just because people have a business problem or a branding problem that you can solve, doesn't mean that you were meant to work with them. And so that just meant to dial in, getting clear on who you are, what are you willing to say and what you're not willing to say. The fear part, or the being scared part, I think that came in a little bit later, when it started to be around social media. And this is me, and there's some other branders who are brilliant in social media. My gift is actually being able to speak. I've done a lot of speaking on stages. I can inspire people live. I love the energy of that, or even just formats like this. But when it comes to like static social media, or putting on like 30-second, 60-second clips on social media, it's just not my format. And I think sometimes it's really important to know what is your format. But what is my format is long form content. So like eventually I'm going to be launching a podcast and a YouTube channel, because I was like, that feels comfortable for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress to your original question, but that's just what opened up when I think about like the fear part of being seen. My thing is more just being seen on social media and trying to get it right in those 30 to 90 seconds or whatever that is.
It sounds like it's hard for you to feel like you're authentic being short, if that's not really how what your communication style is. And that makes sense. All right. I've got a couple of rapid fire questions for you, right? Here you go. So quick answers. What's a company that you think absolutely is crushing branding today?
Oh gosh, industry.
Anything that just comes up. First one that you're like, I love what they're doing right now.
I'm gonna. So I'm big on brands that are doing something really unique in the
Hmm.
industry, who are disrupting industries. And so a brand that I think is crushing it is in a space that most people don't know about, and that's jet lag. So my buddy has a company called FlyKit, KITT, and basically it's the whole philosophy of jet lag is a choice. Now, if I were to ask you, have you ever flown long distance? Have you ever had jet lag? Probably a lot of people have. But if I were to ask you, do you know what the solution is? Most often people think, oh, yeah, you just got to sleep it off, or switch the time zone. No, it's so much more than that. It's supplementation. It's actually the inflammation from traveling. So it's the right
Got it.
supplementation. You plug in your flight into the app, and it tells you what supplements to take. So it's not as a household brand name now, but I'm going to promote it because I think it's doing something really disruptive and really
Good.
needed in the industry.
All right. Dream client or a company that you'd love to work on and rebrand.
Yeah, I am very passionate about brands. A couple ones that are really transforming the health and wellness and spirituality of the population at large. I'm big on personal growth and development, and I'm a bit on a journey of really transforming my own health. So brands that are helping to elevate and transform people's lives in that area, but that are doing that at scale, and that are doing that in a way that comes from the premise that people are not broken and that they don't need to be fixed, that they just need to be empowered to heal themselves.
So which one is it? What's the company? Dream client that you're like, they do all those things, but their branding is off.
Oh, you know what? That's a good one. I,
Ah,
I don't think along those lines. I,
okay.
yeah, it's very actually really different. I usually work with brands that are sort of like not established yet, but
Yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah.
midway, and then I help them.
Okay. So
That's
you're
an
more
interesting.
like early brand catalyst more than a rebrand revamp.
Yeah, like I've done
Okay.
the prestigious names like
Yeah.
before, and I was like, yeah, I like to help the ones that are emerging.
Yeah. So it's less of a rebrand and almost their first real focus on branding. Their first real like, okay, we started a company, but now we want to build a brand and we want to look at it that way.
True, there's a
Yeah.
little bit of a borderline. It is a little
Okay.
bit of a rebrand because,
Sure.
well,
But if the first one wasn't done with any strategy, was it really a brand? Not really, right? It just happened. What
I know.
about all right, here's the next one. What's your favorite case study of yours?
Yeah, so I worked with a company called Odyssey Test Prep, and this is a fascinating story because he basically found me online, and he was like, "Hey, I do LSAT tutoring, and we're getting some leads on Yelp. I just need a new website. I just need a new website." I
Of course.
said, "Okay, what's going to go on this website?" I asked all the questions. How are you going to make decisions on what goes on this website? And he's like, I went through the whole process and realized that you actually need a brand. And I'm very clear on the value of what I provided. So I quoted him. He's like, that's a lot of money. He goes, but something about what you've said really inspired me. He said, yes. Fast forward 4 or 5 years later, I still hear from him every now and then. But within a month after rebranding, his business increased almost 400%, 399%. And then every month it kept increasing thereafter. And now he has, I want to say, like 10 or 14 locations all around America. And he doesn't do private coach. If he does tutoring, it's like a 50K kind of offering. But now he has a scalable business. And that all come from helping him to learn that branding is so much more than a logo and a website.
It's amazing what I'm, hearing a little bit kind of in the subtext of what you're saying is even the business owner benefits from the branding, right? Because it gives them clarity of who they're working, what clients they're going for. It almost is part of having a healthy, more established, planned out vision. And so that's really fascinating. All right, last rapid fire question. What's your biggest fear? I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that one.
No. Yeah.
You're doing a lot of really cool things, and one of the things you're working on right now is an event. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I am putting together the first of its kind multi-sensory branding event. And my vision is that, and I've been in branding for 24 years. And so everyone now, there's a lot of people talking about personal branding and why you need to build a personal brand. And then there's people who are talking about the old traditional building a business brand, and maybe you need a business brand. And I'm saying that you actually need multiple brands. You need both. You need a personal brand, you need a business brand, you have a podcast brand, maybe you have a book brand. I'm kind of talking about all these things on this call, right? Or maybe you have a brand for your event. So what I'm really passionate about in this event is really helping people to cross the threshold of this old version of building a brand into this new version of who they get to become as a brand, but more importantly, as an ecosystem of brands. Because in the era of AI, I'm just identifying that the fact that AI can do a lot of things when it comes to branding, but the real players are creating an ecosystem of brands, which has a huge component of the human experience and the relationship experience. And so this event is about helping to create an ecosystem of brands and then pairing people with other ecosystem brands. So that creates a bigger flywheel for deal flow, collaboration, resource sharing. It's my newest creation. And why not do it in a very fun, embodied way? That's not just all in the headspace, but branding is very much in motion. And so it allows people to drop into their heart, it allows them to drop into maybe a more somatic experience, but also, create from like the head and the heart and the brain.
To me, business is not just about making money. It's about living a life that you actually love. What's one item on your personal bucket list you're going to accomplish in the next 12 months?
The next 12 months, I have a personal goal to go to South Africa. I just got invited. It's one of those long trips, like, all right, we got to prepare for this. And I don't know. I have that on my list to go someplace that's a little bit further than the normal and experience a very different culture.
Yeah. Do you already know what you want to do when you get there?
No, I'm starting to line that up. This just came into my awareness about a month ago.
Okay. I love it. Is it happy? Okay. I want to hear all about it in the next 12 months. I'm excited. Where should people go to learn more about you, Re?
I like to keep it simple. So my name is just Re Perez with one E. So it's just reperez.com. You can find everything about Category 1 branding. You can find all my social handles there, again, on my list. But more importantly, if we get connected, connect with me and let's start up a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Go check out everything that Re is doing. And last thing, kind of signing off, what is one takeaway that you wish everyone would have about their personal brand?
Branding is about creating a perception in the marketplace. And, Jeff Bezos says your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And I believe that that's half accurate. I think the other piece is like, what do you get to say about you before you enter the room?
I love it. So yeah, sometimes there's that disconnect, and I like that bridge back to the individual. So thank you so much for coming out on the show, Re, and to all my biz ninjas, wherever you're listening, watching, or tuning in, it's your turn to go out and do something.